الذين بالمسيح أتممتم المسيح قد
Hello to my beloved listening audience. Eugene, how many do we have to date on our picked up?
Views about 2,200.
Well, I want to thank my 2,200 viewers, and I hope that you can subscribe by pressing the button at the bottom. And today I want to talk about something I'm sure no one would have ever thought that I would speak about. I'm going to talk about I've been captivated by a Netflix movie called The Resurrection of Ertugrul. The Resurrection of Ertugrul. Now, you know, when you watch history dramas, you see history reenacted on the screen. I don't think I've ever been as captivated by a movie as I have. So far, I've seen 86 views. They're like 30 minutes or 40 minutes long, with some breaks in between, of course. Now, what is this about? It's about a Turkish tribe, about the Crusaders, about the Orthodox, and also the Mongolian invasion. Now, one of the things I think that really stuck out to me, because when I was studying history, when I was studying the history of the church, I always had this antithesis to what took place during the Ottoman Empire. Now, I read a book recently called Arab Christians During the Ottoman Empire, 15 something to 18 something. Written by a Russian author. Really interesting. And the book conflicts with some of my perceptions. And when I saw this film, it kind of confirmed something. Even though today I saw there's a new Serbian saint who was killed by the Turks in Serbia. So I know that what took place on all sides haven't been very nice, have been horrible. And the reason I was interested in this film, and maybe I can connect it to the next session. I don't know if I could say everything I want in 10 minutes or whatever. But it confirmed to me today about the situation in the Middle East today, the roots of many of the problems that we have. Now, in this film, the heroic character is called Suleiman Shah. He's the head of this Kayas tribe, and their whole existence was a confrontation with the Crusaders. And what was portrayed, and I know there's got to be some prejudice here, but everything that I read about the Crusaders I saw on this film. What they did in Aleppo, Jerusalem, and in Constantinople, is a sin against humanity. And when people ask about when was the church divided, 1054 was not the hallmark. It was after the Crusaders, when the Orthodox said, "I rather have the turban of the Turk than the mitre of a Latin bishop." The Turks in this movie were questioning, why were the Crusaders persecuting their Orthodox brethren? And they felt that their right, that they should protect the Orthodox Christians. In fact, in one of the scenes, they send help to this one Orthodox village with funds and food and protection to protect them against the incursion of the Crusades, the Crusaders. And my God, the things that they did, what they portrayed the cardinal and his henchmen in such a murderous light, a negative light, that their job was to conquer, not to save the Christians, the Orthodox Christians. It's really, in a sense, it was a cinematographic eye-opener, because it says at the beginning of the film that the events in this film are based on historical data. And I thought that was really interesting that they made that statement. So my first notion would be this is a prejudicial film by the Turks. But it shows them and their weaknesses too. But this one particular tribe under Suleiman Shah and his sons, especially Ertugrul, was fighting against the Crusaders from dominating their part of the world, in what they did in Aleppo. And they were able to open up Aleppo for the Christians, the Orthodox Christians, to be protected in the population at that time. This is about the 13th century. And but you see in this film, my God, the barbarism of the Mongolian tribes was really unprecedented, and how they wiped out villages, and I mean men, women, and children slaughtered by the Mongolians. And you know, they were everywhere in the Middle East, Syria, and but the cruelty that you see in this, and yet there's a great deal of compassion, on the other hand, by this one particular tribe and those that led them. So it kind of cast a little different light at what I thought about the period in which our church was under the Ottoman Empire in later years. This is the early period. However, if you can get a chance to pick this up on Netflix, I'm sure that you would be captivated, because it is historical in many respects. But the book that I read about the Arab Christians in the Ottoman Empire show, like, for example, the Christians in Syria and Lebanon were more or less, especially in Lebanon, were left free to to do whatever they had, whatever they were doing in organizing their religious life. And it's the thing that struck me is that when I view the world today, you know that the Islamic world, whether Arab or Christian, whatever, viewed all Christians at the time for a while through the prism of the Crusaders that pitted Christians and Muslims against each other. Because prior to that, the coexistence that I have witnessed and I have read about in the early periods, that Jews, Christians, and Muslims coexisted, and they mention it to Turks, that we have to protect the Orthodox Christians and the Jews from the Crusaders. So there's some seminal truth there. Now, of course, one will argue about what happened in Armenia and the genocide that took place in Armenia and other incidents. But just let me leave you with this before I go on to the next session. When you want to take a look at the root cause of the events in the Middle East, and maybe I'll wind it up with this, you need to have a historical context, because history is not a Pop-Tart. You know, something that pops up. Man makes history. As Berdyaev says, this Russian philosopher. And history was made by all the players in which up until the 21st century, there is a reverberation of the consequences of the relationships between the Christians and the Islamic world. And I think there are different causalities that we need to take a very serious look at in a historical context. Because these events have consequences today. God bless you.